that is work enough, right?
Yeah.
To know what's supposed to come and not do it until the cues have been put into place.
And I imagine there are a lot of leaders who have a hard time taking even constructive criticism, right? So it's definitely a little bit of a social minefield.
Go ahead, let's go. Wrap it up, wrap it up. You got 2 minutes left, 30 seconds. End it. All right, welcome back to another episode of Staying Grounded. But before we get started, I just need to address some things here. I don't know who sent out the memo, but we've got Melody out here looking very va-va-voom. And then we literally have Jon with a hot sriracha shirt on. So I guess clearly I was not on that email distro that said, come ready, show your hottest, your brightest, your bestest. But that's okay. We'll have to manage.
You know what? We'll make do.
I got my giant.
Hey, I got my little heart socks.
Thick
You
socks
want
on.
your pepper sauce on?
Let's bring out the pepper sauce. Okay, so today I'm actually very excited to talk about this topic.
Yeah.
Because I think my answer might shock some other folks. But why? What's the topic again? 1 second.
Why are classes so boring for followers?
Why are classes so boring for followers? So Jon, earlier we were messing around back behind the scenes, behind the camera. And I think the question I wanted to ask you actually before we dive in was, what does it mean to be bored in a tango class? In general, what do you think from your perspective? Just as a student in the class.
Yeah. So I was thinking back. The times when I was bored, probably a couple reasons. One, if I found the content to not necessarily be challenging, or if I'm picking it up at a faster rate than other people in the class, and the teacher keeps having to go back and sort of reteach the same elements. I like to think of, it obviously depends on the class. If it's like a workshop with visiting teachers, I think for me, the idea is to get as much as you can and then work on it on your own time. But if it's local teachers, maybe it's a little bit more acceptable, but ultimately you have different rates of learning and that can be frustrating and boring at times. Or often if you're with a partner who might not necessarily be at the same skill level as you, and maybe like you realize, oh, like I have to compensate a little bit, and it's not necessarily like that period where you're with that certain partner, maybe you're not necessarily getting as much out of it as you could with another partner. You know, like these are all different scenarios that could potentially happen.
What do you think, Melody?
Okay, so why I find this interesting is that, well, one, like, what skill level are we talking about? Are we saying all skill levels? Because, like, I have definitely seen many times in class that maybe one dancer is a little more experienced than the other, and specifically the leader is like, no, I'm doing it. They're not doing it. No, they're just not doing it well enough. Because if it is a really clear lead and they're actually doing it well, even an inexperienced follow is going to pick it up.
For the most
right?
part. Yeah.
Maybe not day one, but like, let's say you've been taking a couple classes, they should be able to pick it up. So I think the Dunning-Kruger, we often think that we're much better than we are. And I think that often when we're not being challenged in a class, it's because we are saying, oh, my skill has surpassed this. But even in a class that might seem more elementary, I mean, you take your first classes and they're like, we're going to learn to walk. And 10 years in, you take an advanced class and they say, we're going to learn to walk.
You pay the $100+ for the private lesson to
and they
learn
say,
how to walk.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like, we just had this experience where we had a private lesson with Reno, and it was phenomenal in that we were breaking down the structure of tango. We were learning forward step, side step, back step.
They always make
The
you feel so dumb after
basics.
the fact.
No,
In a good way. In a good way.
No, and actually the opposite. I think that it was like, oh, these things that I was learning in my very first beginner classes, you can relearn the same thing, but it's like an onion because your own experience makes then relearning it
Right.
so much more powerful. So if you're sitting in a class and you're like, oh, you know what? I'm bored by this. That's your own limitation.
Fine, you stole my thunder, Melody.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was also going to say something similar. Now, big caveat is recognizing most classes teach first the sequences just so the couples are moving, and until the couple moves and shows some level of execution, it, until that happens, the teacher can't really then dive deep into explaining here's how you can do this differently or better or whatever. Like you need to all be on the same baseline of movement somewhat. So it does always seem like it's for the leaders because they're learning the sequence, but we as followers are very passive. We're passive in our dance and we're passive even in our learning experience. And so in the classes, instead of actively paying attention to what is being taught as just the dance movement and actively watching your leader and seeing how they're doing it and maybe making the suggestions like, oh, okay, I felt you go here. Maybe if we did this, this would make more sense. This would feel more natural. Or, okay, I think the sequence was actually this. Maybe we can do something different. But like, you should be like an equal learner in that moment, even in the learning of the sequence. Like, the thing that I hate the most to hear from a follower is, well, let me just feel it. I just need to feel it. Like, it's not something that just appears out of the sky and all of a sudden you can just feel the movements. You have to have a little bit of understanding of what's going on. Even yes, to some degree, there's some movements that are, let's say, more natural. Maybe the majority of brand new followers, if you hold them in a firm embrace and maintain your circularity and you turn in a circle, sometimes they will naturally do the front side back without you telling them, right? But other times they'll like just won't do it because they blocked themselves. So there's some things that happen, maybe let's say intuitively, but outside of that, like as a follower, we're responsible for understanding what's happening as well. We have to make choices sometimes in the dance. The leader proposes, but then we need to how we execute, that's on us, but we need to understand what we're executing, and just going by the feeling or going by what I feel in the moment, I feel like we do ourselves a disservice. And so I think when we feel bored in the class, it's because we're not playing enough of an active role to also understand first the sequence and then to challenge our leader on how can we make the lead feel better for the both of us. And then to propose ideas. Okay, cool. So we've done it now. We figured it out. What if we tried it to the left? What if I did this? How would we get out of it? So it's like, as a follower, we have a lot of room to, because in a way, while we should be paying attention to the sequence, we're not the ones executing it. So we have a little bit more mental capacity to see the shape and to like introduce a new thing to practice with the partner on, right? Because the partner is just like, the leader's just like, I need to walk back to the side, and then somehow your leg goes in there, right? So I think there's a lot of space for followers to be significantly more engaged. And to your point, it doesn't matter if it's a very basic class. There's, every time I take a basic class, I leave again with like a, moment, you know?
Yeah.
But you have to be thinking it. Like, that's the moment to think. When you're on the dance floor, you don't want to be necessarily hyper or over indexing on, did I do this right? Oh, are they going this way or that way? Like, some of that, you practice it and you feel it many, many times. So by the time you're dancing, the cues that the leader gives you, you have a more quick reaction to it, right? You become more sensitive to it. But the class is the moments to think and to use your brain and to break it down. And I think, I think we should do better as followers to take advantage of the classes more and ask questions. Like, and I think there are ways that you can ask questions that, especially if you change, but if you don't change, there are ways that you can ask questions to address, like, okay, well, what's truly driving the lead in this moment? What should I be feeling? Why does this happen this way and not this other way? What if I did this instead of that? Like, be engaged in the conversation, and then you'd have, I think, a better time. Sorry, that was my little rant.
Well, I think I want to add to that
Please.
a little bit too. I think sometimes what happens in classes is that if it's not working, there's a lot of a blame game.
Yeah.
Right. And instead of doing the blame game, instead saying, well, maybe I'm not being sensitive enough. Maybe I can improve my own sensitivity. Right. But also, recently we had a maestro say something that I just loved, that she said, we're dancing together, but we're dancing separately. It is on me to move my body.
Mm.
And as a follow, I think in the beginning we really do use the leaders for a while.
Yeah.
So increasing our own sensitivity so that we're hearing it and then interpreting and fully interpreting
Right.
it, right? Still feeling it. I'm going to maintain we have to feel, and that when you get to a certain point, like dialing back, like, yes, I'm dancing, but I'm dancing with this person. I'm not dancing alone.
Yes.
Right. But moving my own body. And I think that even if you've been dancing 5 years, in my experience, you're still working on this. So if you're not working on it, you're a year or
Still
2 years in, right? Like,
Yeah.
then maybe we have to check our assumptions about how good we are.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And part of that can become, what I really like about what you just said is, now that's like another tool as a follower, as a student. If you're a follower in the class, it's okay, we've figured out the sequence, we know how to do it. Then you can start to ask, how much effort do you really need for me to feel this? Then you start to then, like, encourage the leader to dial back however much energy they were putting into leading it, to see where your level of sensitivity stops, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff to explore, and I think one more thing I wanted to add is, if I understand how my body is supposed to move, I can better help troubleshoot also. So if something isn't working, rather than holding and waiting for the teacher, as a follower, I can say, okay, well, if you want me to step in this direction, my hips need to be aligned along where my foot is, right? And right now we're not pivoting enough for me to get there. So maybe a little bit less pivot, or whatever the case is in that moment. But I won't know that if I don't understand my body mechanic and what the follower should be doing, or how the movement is supposed to work together. If it's meant to be something that's a little bit more spiral and a little bit more like delayed from top to bottom, but the leaders just sort of they're not allowing your body to do that, maybe because they're holding you tight, then I can very intelligently communicate, oh, I think this isn't working because I'm being blocked. So we need to find a way for my body to actually activate and do the spiral so we can get the boleo, and then now it works, right? So
Yeah.
but you need to understand, how does the boleo work, how does the ocho work, how does, like, so I think we think that the leaders are the ones that are responsible for knowing the movements, and if they're good enough, then we should be able to feel it and execute it. Yeah. And so this is good for group classes, not even talking about followers technique, which
Yes. Yeah.
followers technique is also leaders technique, but
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Okay, but there's one other piece of the equation we didn't talk about. It is the teacher. Because you can have a class where the entire structure of the class is like, we're going to do this combination. I taught you these 5 steps. That's your class. Goodbye. Right? And that, yes, some portion of it is going to be great, but I don't think it pushes the students enough. Right? So I think for the teacher to structure a class that is also engaging, not just for the follow, though, because if it's engaging for the follow and engaging for the leader, like, it's mutually complementary, right? So if the teacher is saying, this is the structure that should really be a tool to introduce a concept or the piece of tango they're trying to teach, and then saying, now what are the other alternatives, right?
Absolutely.
And forcing them to then break out of that pattern, I think that's a good class. So there's a piece of that like, I think is necessary too.
I agree that sometimes the teachers will literally only talk to the leaders.
Oh, that's true.
and they will only
Yeah.
look at the leaders even.
Yeah.
And the only moment they address the followers is to say what we're doing wrong.
Mm.
So I can see how in those types of classes as a follower I would disengage. I
Mm-hmm.
won't be bored, but I would definitely disengage because I'm like, is that the only time you can tell me
Yes.
what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy.
Yes.
So there is an onus on the teacher, yes, to actively include the follower in their communications as well.
Yes. Yeah. Or some technique,
Yeah.
in the lesson, and then and even like it's even as simple as just saying like, okay, I taught you this. Now, like you said, let's do to the left. And I don't know that sometimes it depends on where you are in tango and how experienced you are, how many classes you've taken. I don't think the follower always is going to be like, hey, let me suggest something, right? Because they don't feel it's their place yet. But if the teacher can say, all right, well, we did the structure. Now, if we're doing it in the basic from the 2, let's do it from the 5, right? Even that is enough of a change that it forces the follow to not go into like, oh, we're doing this combination,
Right.
so now I know the steps, right? So I don't know. It is a fine balance of, well, you know the pattern, so the leader needs to be able to learn the pattern, but also you have the opportunity to work on your technique in this. But then now we know the pattern. Now let's really dance it, right?
Yeah, I think that is work enough, right?
Yeah.
To know what's supposed to come and not do it until the cues have been put into place. You cannot be bored if you are really focused on that. That takes so much effort to like, don't go. I know I'm supposed to go with my back step next, but I have to wait until I feel the lead to do that. But I'm curious, John, if anything we've said thus far, because I know you said you haven't really thought about this before. So is there anything we say sort of like make you think, oh wow, that's crazy or interesting or weird or not that important, whatever spectrum you want to use?
Whatever adjective that I want to use. So yeah, like you said, I haven't really thought about it that much, unfortunately. I do think that, so I agree, like a lot of classes are sequences. I think that's just kind of the nature of the dance. I think what you said, Melody, about using sequences to teach pieces of tango, to teach concepts of tango, that's what I enjoy as well. So ultimately, I think, especially, so for example, like we said, Rita and Graciela came recently, and their classes, they did teach a sequence, but they kept their sequence very, very simple, right? Like it was, like when they first introduced the sequence, it was 3 steps, right? It was, anyone can do it, right? And then that was how they found a way, like to get the foot in the door to introduce a concept. And it was, to me, not a follower, but to me it was very illuminating how well they were able to use such a simple sequence. It was like brutally simple to introduce this like amazingly deep concept, right? And I told you, Amanda, it felt very much like, I'm an engineer. It felt very much like when like Einstein figured out like energy and mass are the same thing. Wow, this is amazing. No, but that's the thing, right? Like there needs to be this. You need to get a foot in the door for a thing, but then like a really concrete connection into a concept, and I can see that as a way that it can be really meaningful for both leaders and follows. But um, now that you guys have mentioned it, I for sure next time I'm in a group class, I want to be more communicative with my follow and see if I can initiate that dialogue, because I think a lot of follows they don't, I can tell they don't want to have that conversation, right? They want the teacher to come over and say, fix this and this, and then somehow magically it's going to be better, right? Like I think I get that impression, and maybe like I can you know, have a few pointed questions, and that'll promote that without the need for the maestro to intervene.
That's also a really good point. And I mean, that's just the person's goal. That's the person's goal. So you can't really fix that one. But I love that. Maybe we can talk a little bit more about how leaders can be more aware of like the followers, not just your like punching bag, your practice dummy.
Your guinea pig.
How can you actively engage your, because if followers, I mean, the onus is on the followers to be more proactive and to speak up. But along that journey, it doesn't hurt if you're a leader and you're interested enough. Like, what are some things you can do to encourage your follower partner to also speak up and like say their mind in a constructive way?
But it's also, you know, culturally, it can be, because people don't want to like hurt each other's feelings, and I'm sure there are followers who is like, I don't want to seem like sound like. I don't want to sound like I'm like saying, hey, oh, my leader, you're doing all these things wrong. Do things differently, right? Like they don't want to sound mean, and I imagine there are a lot of leaders who have a hard time taking even constructive criticism, right? So it's definitely a little bit of a social minefield, if people are not on the same page.
That's, you know, that point that you just raised, I think it just supersedes even follower and leader experience. It's like we don't really learn how to be students in the class. Like you kind of fumble your way through it, but how do you in pairs in the class like properly like communicate like conflict resolution, or if something isn't working, what language do you use? Like nobody really says how. Every now and then someone might say, but we don't have the cues to understand, I feel like this, or I wonder if this could be different if we feel this or do this. Like maybe we should do another series on, not a series, another topic, and just come with like a list of here's some keywords you can use when you're in class to share feedback and to receive feedback. Can we make that a topic?
Yeah,
we can for sure make that. So okay, and Melody, I don't know how much you want.
We should make it a live session. Come
on. No, for sure we can do that. I'm thinking like, okay, so Melody, maybe we cut this part if you don't want me to put it, because like after reading on Graciela, I've been trying to practice more, and I've realized this. It's like, so Melody and I, like, we have busy lives. We have 4 kids.
Yeah.
There's a whole business, like multiple businesses. I have a full-time job outside of that. We don't have time to practice. So we actually are not, I'm speaking for myself. I feel like we're not good at practicing with each other. Like, and that's like a skill I would like to be able to develop. And so like what you said about, what I said, like taking my own like advice, right? Like it's difficult. Like it's like, I feel what you said a minute. It's like I don't know that I have that language of being a student, of like being able to work constructively on a problem.
No, but I know why we have that conflict. It's because actually this is the opposite of what we said in this whole podcast. It's that I have a hard time just following exactly what I'm feeling and not giving feedback. And I think actually that would work best. So I've been trying to just be like, I'm going to do exactly what I feel.
Wait, so
when we practice,
you have a hard time.
If like I know he's working on something and I'm not feeling that lead, I have a hard time just shutting up and just doing what I'm feeling. And it would be much more beneficial sometimes.
What would you do instead?
I say, no, you're not doing it right.
With that face with the blinking eyes.
I say you're not doing it right. And then I'm like, no, it should be this, right? And that's not really, we don't process information the same way, and we've learned this. And sometimes my brain skips a couple steps, right? And I can't communicate that it skipped a couple steps. So then we just get frustrated, basically. So in this practice, I am trying to just follow. I'm trying to follow, and then my focus in that is I'm following what I'm feeling, and I'm listening to the feedback I got from the maestros in the private, like, work on my own technique, make sure that I'm not anticipating, like all of the things that we're supposed to be doing. But there was something that they said that I loved, and that actually made me reevaluate a little bit. They're like, we're dancing together, not dancing by myself. We're dancing together. So I'm trying to just be very in tune and present in that moment. So I'm working on that.
I'm not gonna lie, that word together and also connected are very, let's say, concrete words with very abstract meanings.
Yes. Yeah.
And it took me, I've been taking some private lessons as well, on how to teach.
Mm.
And a lot of what we talk about is on coordinating your movements together. And that's when it started to click to me. That's what togetherness, maybe that's not all of it, but that's definitely part of it. So it's like you're watching, I'm watching, you're watching, and we're both like arriving together. We're both trying to like literally move. There are moments, of course, where the leader wants to disconnect and do something else. That's different. But
Yeah.
to be intentional, to match the same size, speed, energy, it's like we lose that ability, I think, over time because we become used to there's a side step. Oh, I got this side step.
Yeah.
And we don't take it the way how it might already be proposed.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's a hard one.
Yes. Well, and there's something we've been working on specifically, like the control of the free leg is one of the things. And like, so I want to do these really beautiful, to be in this enrosque and do these lap pieces, but I don't want to do this embellishment myself. I don't want to be just dancing. I want him to be proposing it and doing these very complex movements because I think it's very difficult and that requires a lot of actually connecting. So like that's one of the things, but we're not even at that one yet. We have a list of things. So I'm just going to listen and not just listen. I'm going to dance and follow and try to be fully present.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's check back in 1 week and see how this goes.
Yeah.
Maybe we should actually just use 2 weeks for me. Maybe we should use our pre-class practice time, which I never show up early enough for us to do. But if I did, then we could actually practice together.
It would be great.
We've talked about this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe after the class.
Yes.
Because I can't show up on time. So that part will never work for me. Yikes. Okay, sorry, I digress.
Okay.
No, but I think this is good. I think we've given, so like to recap, essentially, the advice here is followers take ownership of your own learning experience. Try to understand what, let's say, the sequence is, but more importantly, where does the lead originate from? What should the lead be, and how should your follower response be? That way you have a little bit more awareness of just what you're doing in the dance, and you can make better decisions for yourself as you're dancing. We also said to learn how to use proper communication framing phrases to give back the feedback to the to the leader in the class, to be open to suggest, assuming that it's okay within the sometimes in the class the teachers ask you to do one very specific thing, but if they're asking you to explore and create more things, then also propose your own suggestions. And if the leaders are sorry, can we finish the recap real quick? And I think that was it for the followers.
Yeah.
And then for the leaders, it's be mindful of how like your partner might not the class might not be geared towards your partner, and so when you can create space for your partner to also give feedback and hear it and receive it and try to action on it.
And no blame game.
No blame game.
So I wanted to ask, Amanda, you're saying that the follower should learn the sequence and not just feel it. Do you find that, so I've led my entire tango career. At this point, I'm very used to seeing a sequence and being able to learn it relatively quickly. Do you find that followers can sometimes have a harder time learning a sequence just because that's not like often something that they...
No, I don't think it's something I wouldn't say that it's something innate about following. And maybe I should clarify, learn the sequence from the follower's perspective. If you feel adventurous, feel free to learn it from the leader's perspective. But I mean, like, you should be able to, like, by yourself do the sequence yourself as well.
Yes,
Just so
should be
you
able to dance it
understand
yourself.
the mechanics of the steps and the hip alignment and all that. And then, yes, when it's time to really put into action, then that's when you apply your feeling sensations to actually only execute it if the leader leads it.
Yes.
But I wouldn't say that followers are any less capable of remembering sequences. I think, in fact, we do remember sequences, which is part of the problem, because then we follow those sequences.
And we think something's coming.
Right.
that
You're like,
might
oh,
not be
this is
coming.
going to become a backside cross, turn, pivot, parada. I got this.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then our leader is.
I would say leaders are not as good as remembering sequences.
Oh, well, I was going to say then if you're socially dancing, then the leader might have some other idea to propose.
Right.
And then they're like, wait,
What just happened?
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I definitely experienced that. So, okay. I think we've covered it. Yeah. But I want to know other people's feedback too. I mean, like, follows, are you bored in class? Like,
Yeah.
is that something you feel? Is there something a teacher's done really well that made you feel inspired by the class? Share.
And what are your techniques to, like, not stay bored, to be
Yes.
active in the class?
Yeah. Share after you like and subscribe.
Yeah,
You
definitely.
see what I did there?
And definitely share in the comments. In the
Yes.
comments.
Share in the share your thoughts in the comments.
In the comments.
Okay, I was like,
Yes.
are we okay?
Yes. So, all right. We'll see you on the next one.
Next one.
All right, bye.
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 Thanks for tuning in to Staying Grounded. If you like this episode, please subscribe and give us a like. We would love to hear from you in the comments, and we'll see you next time.